Hello, everyone. I'm Colin of WrestleZone.com, joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE Monday Night Raw. John, how you doing?
Good, and you?
I'd be doing better if we weren't going to be talking about the show that was main evented by a pose off tonight. But all in all, can't complain. Can't complain. Thought the show was pretty solid, at least up until that point. Do want to take a quick sidebar to say on Friday we did the SmackDown show. I don't know what happened. We had a lot of technical difficulties with StreamYard, Facebook, something botched. I don't really know. For whatever reason, the show just kind of like disappeared from the Facebook page. So people unfortunately couldn't find it. Thankfully, it seems to be working as far as I can tell tonight. By all, yeah, we got there's Nessa in the comments. So whatever happened on Friday, I don't know. I apologize for that. We seem to be straightened away now, thankfully, because it was a fairly eventful show here. And that reminds me to say, this show, like everything we do here, if you miss it live, it's available on all of our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. So please do leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. Now, John, I guess I just want to get it out of the way. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it because there's not a lot to talk about. The show ended with a pose off tonight between Theory, the United States champion, and Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, a former WWE champion. You look at the man; they were literally saying on the commentary, he's Herculean. He is this just masterpiece of a man. And you put him against there in Theory, and like anyone in there against Bobby Lashley's will look pretty not bad, but like it's Bobby Lashley. Like nobody's gonna match up to Bobby Lashley, and they're trying to build up Theory as this kind of guy to like potentially, at least in theory, pardon the pun, potentially face John Cena at some point. You put him in there in this pose off against Bobby Lashley, and again, you're inherently kind of setting him up, if not to fail, like to look a little lesser than, and to have this be the main event of your flagship show of Monday Night Raw. This posed down, not a great match. And tonight they had Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. They had, I guess that was probably the big one. That to me screams like that. That's a big main event. They didn't do that. They had this pose down, a pose down that wasn't even that eventful. They posed very good. But Bobby Lashley is Bobby Lashley. So as Ness points out, beating Bobby Lashley in a pose off, they've got no chance in hell, as Vince McMahon would say. And then Bobby Lashley posed. He won, as you'd expect. And in theory, ever the sore loser, grabbed some baby oil and squirted it in Bobby Lashley's eyes, squirted all over him as if that weren't enough, and then drop kicked him to stand tall to close the show. One of the least enjoyable closings to Raw in quite some time. I did not enjoy this. I don't really enjoy anything like this. They've done this before. I'm not saying it's unprecedented, but whether it's arm wrestling challenges or pose downs especially, it's just like this is not what I'm here to see. Like I want to see wrestling, or at the very least some kind of like talking session or segment or something. This ain't it.
Yeah, this is kind of a disappointment. You had the Bobby and Omos contract signing that closed the show a few weeks ago, and that kind of was like in the same boat as this, like, what is going on here? But before that, I can't really recall anything recent that has been kind of like on that kind of a level to close the show. And it's upsetting to see that Bobby has been involved both times because I really don't think it's him or there's a problem with him. I just think it's the way that they choose to handle the show. Um, this is clearly, and I was confused at first until I realized that this is just basically building slash continuing their feud that I forgot was even a thing before this. They had to show video packages and basically mentioned it for me to be reminded of that. What I was taken out of it as soon as he said the crowd was going to decide the winner, because at that point it didn't matter what they did, you knew it was going to happen at that point. And that's exactly what happened the rest of the show, from the attack to the winner to all that stuff. There's clearly going to be a title match at some point, but I'm confused how they're going to pull this off because there's no way I think Bobby's going to win the title, but how do you have him lose, like, clean or just at
Right.
all? You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. This is, to me, I think building up to the return of John Cena. I think the writing's on the wall. We're going to have Theory versus Cena. As much as people hate to probably think this, Theory's probably going to go over in that too, because that's just what they've been building towards. Maybe not, but that's where I think it's going. Nothing good, nothing really else to mention. We'll see where it goes from here, but not good.
Some thoughts about this potential match here with Bobby Lashley and Theory. Both DJ and Nash pointing out Theory / Lashley, could get DQ'd just to get out of it without having Lashley get pinned or anything. That feels pretty likely. If he does beat Lashley, I would say that's a big win for him. He did mention John Cena in his promo tonight. He was saying, by the time I celebrate 20 years of my career, it's going to make John Cena's 20-year anniversary look like nothing. So that was I feel like that was one of the first times we've really seen him blatantly reference him on TV like that. Not that he hasn't done before, but like we've seen it on social media. Now it's on TV. So it does feel like we are building up to that in the very near future here, because we do know John Cena will be coming back June 27th. That is not next week, the week after that. So looking forward to that for his 20-year anniversary. So looking forward to that. See what happens there. Benjamin A. Jones saying that Theory should just win dirty, when they have the match, because he is a heel. That makes sense.
That's probably what will happen in both cases. He's not. I would be genuinely shocked if he got a clean win over one, let alone both, of Lashley and Cena.
Yeah, Stephen Chambers saying he thinks Theory will beat Cena, and I mean, it feels like it could happen. I mean, I definitely think it's.
Maybe not. Everybody thought the first time that Cena and Rock faced off, it was going to go a certain way, and then they just had a rematch a year later. Cena was just back and basically lost. He won his house shows, but on TV, he was never really a winning guy. He was going up against arguably the best guy, but you can't. I don't think, at least for 20 years and all that stuff, like, you can't just have him come in, whether it's for a month or a couple weeks, and just like start losing again. Granted, I don't think he's in for the return he was last year. I don't see him working house shows every week and doing something like that, but I do see him, as of 2 weeks from now, being around for at least a month until SummerSlam. That's only like 4 or 5 weeks on TV. It's not that much, but still, it's nice. It's a nice change of scenery from what we've been getting, and especially with Cody, all that stuff. My final thoughts on just the pose off is like, um, besides the fact of how bad it was, it didn't justify being in the main event. I'll just say that it could have been. Not even the opener. I would have rather have seen the opening segment close the show, what we got tonight, but I guess it wouldn't have made sense. Well, maybe it would have. We might as well talk about that now since I brought it up. The opening of the show tonight was Miz TV segment with Paul Heyman, and it led into a match, but it started with an opening segment that saw basically the Miz tease that if Roman's the big dog and is always going to be the champion, someday, somehow, somebody's going to have to cash in on Roman. And Paul Heyman basically agreed, but said, well, it doesn't matter because they're not going to win either way. It was a pretty good opening promo, but it led to a revelation from Paul Heyman that we already knew we were getting a title match this Friday, but it led to the announcement that if Riddle loses to Roman Reigns, which he will, he can no longer challenge for the title while Roman is champion. So, not that he probably would anyway. So, Colin, I know you want to get through some of these comments first, but after you do so, what did you think of the opening segment?
Right off the bat here, DJ said Riddle definitely going to win because of the stipulation.
No, oh God, no! Come on, now, come on.
I don't necessarily see that happening. I do want to take a quick sidebar too, but we were talking about it before it gets lost in the shuffle here. Nesha expressed her excitement for John Cena's return. Definitely with you, Nesha. We've talked about it before. I'm a big fan of John Cena. Again, even if it's just for a couple weeks here. Definitely looking forward to that. They have this ad, the ad they've been playing lately on WWE TV with "Remember the Name" by Fort Minor to hype up Cena's return. Love that song. I'm a big fan of John Cena. I definitely appreciate him a lot more now than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was like everyone. I was like, oh, it's cool to like not like John Cena. But now I'm like, man, he comes back, and it just takes me back, and I really appreciate it. And plus, that whole thing we talked about last week, the story with the kid from Ukraine. The dude's a freaking superhero in real life. Like he's awesome, and I definitely appreciate him so much more now than ever before. John's shaking his head at me, but I'm excited, folks. Okay, I'm
not shaking your head about that. I keep seeing these comments coming in that says Riddle's going to win. Like, come on now. There's no chance. If you guys mean by DQ, then sure, have your fun. But come on now. It's been 60 days. He's not dropping the title to Riddle on a random SmackDown. No, he won't win.
I still am a little worried they're gonna like not deliver the match because
Oh, they probably won't. I wouldn't
you
be
know.
surprised at that if it's like a 5-second little thing at the end, like it was when Roman had to wrestle Sammy a couple months ago.
I'm saying I'm a little worried Roman's not going to show up at all. Like I feel like they wouldn't be
Uh,
that terrible, but like I don't know. I mean, this is just some in theory, it's like some random SmackDown.
isn't
So
it weird though? Because like, of course, all the rumors were going out that maybe his new contract has less dates, sort of like people like Randy Orton and stuff. But like, okay, if that was the case hypothetically, why not just have him wrestle at Money in the Bank instead of a SmackDown in Minneapolis? Like, I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense.
yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. At this point, I think the latest update was that he has not been advertised for Money in the Bank, especially after they moved it to the smaller location in the MGM Arena, um, which I mean, okay, but at the same time, it's still a premium live event, so it's still you would expect to have Roman Reigns on that show. Because in that case, he'll have missed Hell in a Cell and Money in the Bank, and they would very well assume he will be at SummerSlam. That's the big show of this stretch, at
I
least.
mean,
And
he better be there. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't there either.
you would
I'd be
assume so.
concerned actually, not just
Yeah.
surprised. I'd be concerned at that point.
Steven says if slash when Roman competes at SummerSlam, he's saying Roman may lose the title at SummerSlam. And I don't know if I agree with that, especially because Cody Rhodes being out, for the next couple of months. I don't see anybody sitting here right here today that
At this point, I am convinced that the absolute earliest he would drop the title would be at Clash of the Castle against Drew McIntyre, and I still don't think that's likely. Realistically, I would think WrestleMania in Los Angeles is the earliest he'll probably lose the title, which at that point is going to leave him, I think, almost at 900 days. And at that point, why not just go for 1,000?
Yeah, I feel like they very well might. Like I said, other than Cody Rhodes, right now, maybe you mentioned the cost of the castle. In that case, likely Drew McIntyre. If not that, I really don't see anybody sitting here today that really makes sense to have to be the next champion, to be the guy that beats Roman right here.
But it's not going
But
to be Riddle. I mean,
no,
there is a case to be made for Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, and of course The Rock and Cody Rhodes. But I can't sit here and make an argument for a Riddle at this point in time.
I think it's gonna be a good match. I think it'll be a good main event, assuming slash hoping it happens. I think this stretch has helped solidify Riddle a little more as a main event esque player, but I still definitely don't think he's at that level to be the unified champion. So that is the guy that you have with both titles here. And again, Robert and I were talking about it on the Friday show a little bit. Roman has not defended the title on TV since he unified them at SummerSlam. He's defended them at house shows. He competed in the 6-man match at WrestleMania Backlash. This will be his first televised defense of the titles. So I really don't think he's going to lose them on his first defense, even with all the other factors here that we've been talking about a little bit. But DJ would say, we never know, we're not going to know until we find out, obviously. DJ likes, Nesh likes the idea of Drew winning at Clash of the Castle, obviously that being in the UK. I think that is fairly realistic, at least as far as predictions go. I do like this. We're talking about Randy Orton. We already know he's going to face Riddle. Drew McIntyre probably very likely Clash of the Castle. Steven wanted to see if Bobby Lashley get a shot. I mean, they did the angle. I think that was how someone Lashley got the title. Now Lashley's feuding with Theory, so I don't know. They could always circle back to that, but if Lashley, assuming he does lose to Theory, not the best look for to having to lose Theory and then challenge Roman. They could build it back up after that. But another realistic prediction here from Eddie saying the Usos will cost Riddle the match against Roman on SmackDown. Yeah, it's pretty likely. Whether or not Randy Orton gets involved, I don't know. Every time that they bring him up, they say Randy Orton may never wrestle again, and I very well feel they're probably just giving him time off. I haven't heard much about an actual injury or anything. At least I hope that's the
I
case.
mean, I feel like by this point we would have definitely heard at least something if it was legitimate.
Yeah. So I imagine Randy will be back maybe for SummerSlam. That would be a pretty good match, especially I feel like they may have been potentially going for Cody at SummerSlam. That's pretty clearly off the table. Randy makes a lot of sense for SummerSlam. So I'm looking forward to that potentially, assuming that is the case. But yeah, I don't see Riddle winning on Friday. I'm sure it'll be a good match. I hope it actually happens because I talk about on the SmackDown show all the time. not having Roman Reigns around, SmackDown it's been pretty rough lately. Like especially with all the other things, and Sasha Banks and Naomi being gone, at least for now, Roman being absent. It's very very light on depth in a lot of ways. So hopefully, at least we'll get that match to look forward to on Friday. That's a big match. I'm looking forward to that. We had a couple of the big matches tonight. Money in the Bank qualifiers here. We'll start with the women's side. I think as Deej brings it up, we had a tag team qualifying match. Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss facing Nikki ASH and Doudrop. Pretty good match here. Pretty good match where both teams look pretty good. I felt very, very secure in the prediction that Alexa Bliss and Liv Morgan would win this one, and they did. DJ says, how about the awesome new women's tag team of Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss tonight? Don't know about them as a tag team, but at the very least, they worked well together enough to get this win here tonight to qualify for Money in the Bank. DJ pitches the name for them, the Bliss and the Beautiful. But they work well together tonight to get the wins. They'll be going on to Money in the Bank to join, at least for right now. So far, the only other contestant, Lacey Evans, who won her match against Xia Li on Friday. So that is roughly half the field in the match so far. But I think three pretty strong competitors here based on these three so far.
Yeah, some comments about all that first. I don't think they are a tag team. I think it was a one-off tonight. At least that would back up what I was going to say next is it seems there's clearly no plans to take the women's tag division seriously, especially that Nikki and Doudrop were like one of the last teams and also like the newest team, and they didn't even look like they were a threat to win. I'm 3 for 3 now with guessing who's going to be in the women's ladder match. All three that have been made it so far are three that I have predicted to be in the match. However, next week the streak may come to an end because we have Becky versus Asuka in a contender match to make the Money in the Bank qualifying, and um, I had predicted that they would both be in the match, but it's still possible they could both be in the match, of course. But because I find it hard to believe they're going to get three, or I guess it'd be at this point, yeah. Well, they've already announced three, and there's four to be named yet.
Yeah.
And I find it hard to believe they're going to get three more from SmackDown. Like that just to me blows my mind. I think they'll get two more from SmackDown, maybe. So at that point, something has to give somewhere. But just to briefly discuss about that next week, and we'll talk more about the Becky Lynch segment in a minute. But I would have Asuka win to continue the Becky Lynch breakdown that we've been seeing. But tonight was good. I thought it was predictable. I mean, in fact, I think I missed mostly all this match just because I knew, well, this is how this is going to go, and that's exactly how it went. It's a shame to kind of see what they've done with Doudrop and Nikki. I guess, I mean, Nikki did win last year, so it's not a big deal that she's not in this year. It would have been kind of cool to see, can I make two in a row or whatever, but we didn't really need to see that. But I'll tell you what was better is the other qualifying match you were talking about on the men's side was an absolute gem of a match, I thought, especially for basic free cable TV. It began when Seth Rollins was cutting a promo to. I mean, he didn't really explain his actions on Cody. That was supposed to be the nature of the promo, but he pretty much just said, what he's been saying recently. Nobody turns their back on me. Nobody treats me like that or whatever. And then AJ Styles with a kind of a weird attack, basically saying that's for Cody, which is kind of weird, kind of came from nowhere. And then we got the match. Eddie did say, he thinks Seth will win Money in the Bank, cash in on one of Roman's titles. Cody returns at the Rumble and challenges for the title at Mania 39. I see a similar path, but a little bit different, and I'll explain that in a minute. Clearly, with Herman saying Seth Rollins deserves, spoiler, Rollins did win the match. He beat AJ Styles. I don't think really anybody was surprised. Rollins has proven that he can do something with the briefcase for a long time, and he has proven that he's good in ladder matches as well. And AJ, of course, there's unfinished business with the Judgment Day that I believe will be revisited very soon. Uh, Before I let you give your thoughts, I will say what I think could unfold if Rollins were to win. I'm not saying I think he's going to win because we only know basically one person that's going to be in this match right now. We assume that Drew's going to be in the match too, but it's not official yet. I think if Rollins were to win, it's more likely that Cody would win the Rumble. I mean, I think he's going to win the Rumble regardless right now, so it doesn't really matter who's going to be the Money in the Bank. But there could be a heist of the century too, with Rollins involving himself in that match at Mania with whoever it may be. I remain convinced that one of these titles needs to be dropped from Roman before, because I do think Roman and Rock will be a match, and I think it will be for probably the Universal title, which means somehow, some way, they would have to have Rollins cash in, but only on one of the titles. So you would have to have like Roman have a championship match that was only for one of the titles. It's a real weird scenario they'd have to work out. They can do what they want, so it doesn't really matter. But that's what I would see happening is somehow, some way they would have that one-on-one match. But what did you think of the match tonight and him being in that match again?
Well, I do want to say for the Roman Reigns thing, they did when they had the two belts, Becky two belts. They had her, I think, defend like each title individually very briefly, and she dropped one pretty soon after she unified them. So they could do that for Roman at some point potentially. I thought Seth versus AJ was great though. This was definitely a pay-per-view quality match here that we got free on cable TV. I thought it was very good. There was one point where Styles reversed a stomp into the calf crusher, a bunch of cool spots like that. These guys worked together before, and they always work very well together. They're both great, so you would expect a very good match. That's what we got. This would have been a much better main event than what we got. So I wish they did that instead of the pose off. I think that would have been a lot more satisfying to close the show on. Rollins said, as you said, he said in his promo, like he did he references heist of the century, he's referenced his success in the past. Now he wants to win Money in the Bank again, and now he's qualified for it, so he could do that. I mean, this match was a little weird where both guys have lost a lot lately. Rollins lost to Cody Rhodes 3 times in a row. Styles has been on the losing side of this feud with Edge. I think actually ironically for 3 times in a row as well, because he lost to Mania, WrestleMania Backlash, and Hell in a Cell. So kind of a situation where ideally you would have had maybe both guys qualify, so at least they would advance Money in the Bank, but instead Styles lost here, and there wasn't even any interference. Rollins just kind of stacked him on sunset flip. So very good match, clean one for Rollins, helps him get more momentum back heading into Money in the Bank. As you said, right now he's the only one that we really know of at this point. We had Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus on SmackDown, ended in a double DQ. So that has not been resolved yet. As you said, I would imagine we're going to see potentially Drew McIntyre, or maybe both. SmackDown has a little more depth on the men's side of things. But it's interesting because Raw tonight, especially, everyone was kind of saying, "Oh, I want to be in the bank." We had Ezekiel saying it. We had MVP saying it for almost. So it seems like we might say almost in Money in the Bank. It feels like everyone at least wants to be in it, which is nice. Makes it feel more important. But no, definitely more support for this match here. Not just this match of the night. I definitely agree with that. It was a very, very good match. Some thoughts about the women's side. We'll talk about in a minute. Eddie says, and I see this going around a lot, I definitely agree. He says, Seth deserves to win Money in the Bank. After the performance he's put in the last 5 months, he needs momentum back. I believe he lost many matches to Cody Rhodes, even before that. Seth be the world champion. Cody wins the Royal Rumble, and then you have the rematch for the championship. That makes a lot of sense, both from the storyline perspective. Rollins has been doing great work, really just for months now. I've actually myself enjoyed his work for the most part, even being someone that's not always the biggest fan of his. I can't deny his matches are always great. He's done well with the character work, and I've really enjoyed specifically the character work with this Cody Rhodes series lately. Some of the promos he's had. I do think that that ultra rematch with Cody for the title makes a lot of sense. So whether that's through Money in the Bank or not remains to be seen, and we do have to wait and see who else qualifies here. Do want to circle back to the women's side of things here with a couple comments about that. Steven says it depends on what SmackDown has. We talked about that where they don't have a lot of depth, but at least so far, Steven says Alex Bliss seems like the favorite at this point. I would agree. Robert and I were talking about on Friday, and Robert pointed out Money in the Bank is on July 4th weekend, so they might want to give Lacey Evans' briefcase for the sake of patriotism, I guess. But I would definitely be rooting for Alex Bliss, at least based on this field so far. I think we might see, but we'll see Becky versus Asuka next week. Whoever wins there will definitely be a favorite. Got a question about potentially Charlotte or Bayley showing up Money in the Bank. I mean, Charlotte definitely could. She was just on her honeymoon after she married Andrade. Supposedly,
Charlotte is my 7th pick for the match. I do expect them to go into the match with the 7th competitor being a mystery.
Yeah.
We've seen that before. I would assume if she was going to be in the match, it would be something like that. But I do definitely think Charlotte will be in the match. I mean, this is like 2 or 3 months now. We've been waiting for Bayley to come back. I mean, we think she's ready. I mean, we think it's probably something creative they're waiting on. But I mean, come on. I mean, I would bring her back, and there is clearly unfinished business between her and Bianca Belair. SummerSlam, make it happen. I mean, come on. I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. I haven't really seen anything. It's been pretty quiet on that front. She tore ACL almost a year ago now, so you would think she would be recovered. I haven't really heard anything. I'm not a doctor, obviously, so I don't know. But no, it has felt like people were kind of expecting her every step of the way. Like some people thought for WrestleMania, or even before that for Royal Rumble, that may have been a little aggressive, but pretty much, and then the Raw after Mania, that came and went. So don't know what's happening there. Benjamin says he sees her winning the Money in the Bank if she's back. I mean, I would think that's at least a possibility. Deidre says maybe Sonya Deville gets a spot. Possible. Nev says she wants Liv to win, but she's guessing Lacey wins. I mean, I think any of the three they have so far could definitely win. Another comment from Morgan here saying that Eddie's saying he wants her to win, or at least predicting that she'll win. Eddie says people will go nuts if Charlotte wins, nuts for better or worse. So he says that we can do that. They always do that. I mean, that's maybe why I wouldn't exactly love the idea. Would have rather see someone like Alexa Bliss, or if it's Oscar, someone else. But I don't know. I would say that would make sense though, because they always do that kind of thing. Steven says Lacey will heel turn after Money in the Bank. I mean, they've already kind of like flip flopped a little bit on whether Lacey's a heel or not. But maybe they could fully commit one way or the other after Money in the Bank. I think that would make sense as well. DJ says Ezekiel and Liv Morgan are his picks here. We've got more support for Liv Morgan here, but DJ brings up Ezekiel. And so that brings us to, we got a rematch with Ezekiel, Kevin Owens, the rematch from Hell in a Cell. Kevin Owens threw a temper tantrum. There were a couple of brutal things in this match. Like Ezekiel threw Owens on steel steps at one point and blasted him with this nasty strike in the face with the knee. Pretty good match. I was enjoying it. In the end, Owens threw a temper tantrum at the commentary table, upset they kept calling him Ezekiel. And obviously his whole thing is he's convinced he is Elias. So Ezekiel wins by count out. And Ezekiel says, okay, I'm not done with Kevin Owens yet, but I want to be in the Money in the Bank match. And there's some big breaking news, folks. Elias was so excited for his younger brother. He's going to come back to Raw next week. And we later found out he's going to have a concert. Elias will be in concert next week. We're going to learn, and Ezekiel even said tonight, where he's going to remind us all what it truly means to walk with Elias. I have no idea what to expect here beyond a kind of Damian Mizdow thing. I've seen that actually going around a lot. I'm expecting shenanigans of some sort. I just don't know to exactly what degree, but I'm interested to see what happens here.
There's no in between. This is either going to be really good or really bad. There literally, I don't think, can be any in between. How they're going to pull this off, realistically, what I think we're going to see is Ezekiel with a fake beard on that's going to be obviously fake and dressed like he was before, basically portraying the character that he was before, except with a fake beard, because I don't think he can grow it back that quickly. Alternatively, he got travel issues, or he's not going to be able to make it, or something like that. They're gonna make up, or maybe they'll keep him backstage and they'll play an old promo or an old segment that maybe was not shown before or whatever, and then they could have Ezekiel in the ring while Elias is backstage at the same time doing a little concert. They can make it work like that, but they're not two different people. Ben Jones, they are not two different people. They are the same person. He's not going to come to the ring. I mean, he might, but it's not going to be it's not going to be believable. You know what I mean? Like when I say believable,
Yeah.
I mean it's weird talking about it when we know it's literally the same person. So it is kind of the way it used to be, but you can't grow a beard that quickly. And Eddie's saying a whole Damian Sandow thing. It's not going to be Damian Sandow. I think he's done. He's retired, like he said he was. And even if it was him, I don't necessarily think it would be believable that it was definitely that it was Elias at that point. So that's my basically all of those scenarios I outlined, it's probably not going to be good. What are your expectations, and do you have a prediction on what you think they're going to do?
Well, likewise, I mean, DJ says, what if they could do an apparition kind of thing, like they did at Hell in a Cell with Dean Ambrose and Bray Wyatt? If they want to like get into the special effects kind of thing, I think that's probably going to be even more risky. I think anytime you do stuff like that on a live show, you know, the Thunderdome was one thing, but now this is a live show with a crowd and everything. So like I know it lessens your ability to do a lot of editing and stuff like that, or like pre-tape and stuff like that. So I don't know if I would want to see that. I mean, we were promised a concert. Okay, well, I'm expecting Elias to come to the ring and give us a musical performance for the ages. Because at the last check before Ezekiel came around, we thought Elias was dead. This would be like he's coming back to life. You know, it's a big deal. Steven says they could have like an Elias cardboard. I mean, like to be fair, Ezekiel lied last week. They did plant that seed that he is a liar, like Kevin Owens said. So maybe he was lying. Maybe this is all just a ruse. That'd be very disappointing because they advertised later in the show. They're doing the whole whole 9 yards here. So I hope they deliver on it. I don't know how they're going to do it. Eddie says they're going to make them stand side by side next week somehow. They're editing things you see in Hollywood where actors will play themselves or whatever, or look alike or something like that. There are ways to do it. I just don't know if I trust how they're going to pull it off. Whatever happens, I do expect, as I says, it's going to drive Kevin Owens crazy. I still don't know what the end game is here. A callback with Damon Senna would be fun. DJ points out he does have the Elias beard. He literally just retired this past weekend. Retired like his final swan song, his last match at NWA Always Ready. So I don't know if that's most realistic. Anything can happen, as we always say. But DJ says Ezekiel will play a banjo in the concert. Ezekiel has said in interviews he's more of a piano man. He's more of a piano man himself. So maybe they'll do a duet or something. Maybe they'll do a hologram. I mean, again, like these are things they can do. I just don't know if it's going to come off that well. I don't know. I'm not all that optimistic. Another idea from Benjamin A. Jones: Rick Boogs could put on a fake beard. They've got a kind of a similar build, similar hair kind of look there. Maybe. I don't know, man. I'm not hopeful. I guess I'm a little surprised that they're already doing this soon, even though this has already been going on for about 2 months now. So I guess it's not all that soon after all. But I guess they could have tried to drag it out a little more and just kept kicking the can down the road. Like you said, John, maybe they'll have travel issues. Maybe they'll just kick it down to the week after that. Maybe it'll never happen. But if we're operating as if it is going to happen, I don't know. Should be interesting. Nestor says it's going to be interesting, and I definitely agree with that because I don't know what to expect. I'm hopeful, but not hopeful in the sense I think it's going to be good. I hope it'll be entertaining and not as bad as the pose-off we saw tonight. So I'll leave it at that. I mentioned the Becky Lynch match with Asuka next week. Did want to mention Becky Lynch had another match with Dana Brooke here for the 24/7 championship. And the match never happened. Becky attacked Dana and literally just beat her up and said, you know what, this wasn't about your title. I'm just mad at being disrespected. And then she said she wanted to be in the Money in the Bank match to shoot ball with Asuka. That's the stage for next week. And John, you had mentioned earlier you think that we might see Asuka in there to continue Becky's kind of breakdown. I think that's probably pretty realistic at least. Because what could make her break down more rapidly than being left off the show entirely? If she loses the Money in the Bank, that would seem to kind of suggest she would not be on the show at all, potentially. I've seen this going around, though, and I thought they were actually going to give Becky the title tonight, and they didn't. But DJ says they're ruining Becky, putting her in the 24/7 title segments. I've seen that going around. I don't know if they're ruining her, but it's not the best thing to be associated with. So I think that's definitely a fair comment. John, what do you think about Becky's kind of semi-association with the 24/7 title at this point?
Well, it's certainly been intriguing. I think people are making a little bit of a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but I'm not exactly sure how they can continue to involve her in this without making people even more upset than they've already been, you know?
Yeah, and it's ironic because, like, in theory, by having Becky work with Dana Brooke, that should help Dana Brooke. But because they've booked her in this inherently. I mean, the 24/7 television has this like stink on it. It has this like bad perception, and like the way they've booked it. It's not any fault of the performers. It's just like they've made it very clear that's a lesser than division or slash part of the show. So, for anyone to be associated with it isn't great. So then having Dana work with Becky, Becky's fine. It doesn't drag her down, but it doesn't help Dana as much as you would hope, because like she's facing Becky, other than last week where Asuka helped her. There's no chance in the world she's actually going to beat Becky. So it's like it's inherently kind of a flawed setup in that sense. Nesha says she thought Becky would win the title here, become Becky 2 belts again at some point. There remains an option. If Becky wins next week and qualifies Money in the Bank, they could always circle back and have Becky get the title after all here. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think at first I thought it was weird. Then they had Dana pin Becky last week, admittedly with shenanigans, but Becky kind of got the momentum back on her side tonight, and almost right with the world again in that sense. But otherwise, here another match we had was Riddle versus Champa, which should be great. John Riddle's great. Champa is awesome. Champa got the jobber entrance. The match was very short. One highlight: Champa maximized his minutes. He grabbed Riddle's foot, and he tweaked his toes and he slammed his bare foot into the mat. Oh, that was pretty cool. Easy win for Riddle, obviously, and it kind of same thing with that kind of match. With Riddle having this title match on Friday, supposedly that there's no chance that Ciampa's going to beat him, and I feel like there are a lot of more than maybe we would hope. That we were talking about earlier with Dana, with Nikki ASH and Doudrop, a bunch of the talent on the show. It's like they're not enhancement talent, but like that's the word that comes to mind, because like most of their matches, like they don't feel like they're going to win, and they feel like they're there to take the loss. And especially in Ciampa's case, it's a real shame. Steven says poor Ciampa. Ciampa called up to Raw, attacked Mustafa Ali a couple of times, attacked Riddle. I think he beat Mustafa Ali once thanks to the Miz's help, and then he had this match tonight, and he lost pretty decisively here. And it feels like they don't know what they're doing with him. It's a real shame. And I hope they figure it out, because, like, again, I'm a big fan of his, and I want Sam do better, but they're just kind of not really doing anything with him other than stuff like this. But there's not really much to even say about it, because it was just an easy one for Riddle.
Yeah, absolutely. This was definitely a glorified enhancement match. Champa hasn't necessarily been used in the best way. He, like you said, has done some relevant things on TV, but otherwise has been largely not utilized the correct way. But it did do the job of making Riddle look strong, but I don't think ultimately it's going to matter come this Friday.
Yeah. But that was one way we had to build up Riddle tonight. One way we had to build up the Judgment Day tonight after their shocking betrayal Edge last week. Then Belair to promo because Rhea Ripley earned a title shot against Belair at Money in the Bank last week. So Belair was out to address that challenge here tonight. She was talking about how she and Ripley have kind of come up together. They were both kind of pretty in short order called up, and they started doing great things. Bianca headlined WrestleMania. Ripley won the title not long after that, doing great things together. Kind of this, she said it was like a competition. She loved that. But now she has now recognized this version of Rhea Ripley, saying she has no soul. Rhea Ripley and the new Judgment Day with Finn Balor appeared on the video screen, and they briefly addressed why they turned on Edge. Basically, they said Edge's orders were contradicting themselves, and they decided just to eliminate him, and so they could do whatever they want now. Okay. And Ripley was saying that her teeth got knocked loose in her match last week, which is true. She posted about it on social media that she actually had to get some work done on her teeth. She was saying she liked that. She's saying that she's going to show her Belair that she can walk the walk and Money in the Bank, become a two-time Raw Women's Champion. Steven right off that saying he thinks Rhea's going to beat Bianca. I don't know about that, but I do think it's going to be a very good match.
Yeah, for sure. There is a scenario maybe where I do see her potentially winning and becoming the champion. I mean, with this new stable, sometimes they like to build them up fairly quickly, while not realistically what I think is going to happen. It'll certainly be a good match, as you indicated. Even DJ says the same thing. I think it's Rhea's time. Steven says Rhea will win. And I agree with Nesha as well. Bianca had a good promo in the ring tonight as well, kind of basically saying that, we came up together, we were friends, but the classic promo of the person they become isn't the person I know, and we've kind of seen that time and time again. It has the potential to be one of the best women's matches of the year if they do it right. The story has already been told. Now they're probably going to have a good match in the ring. But I do expect Bianca to probably win and retain, and then maybe a rematch at SummerSlam. We talked about this before. These two have had good matches before, but I don't think the story had necessarily been there like it is now.
Yeah, I think that's a very good story. Belair, this great babyface. Ripley, as Belair said tonight, the soulless, dark, evil, quote unquote heel. That definitely is a story that definitely has legs to it. So if Ripley wins, or if they decide to have a rematch anyway, they could draw it out to SummerSlam potentially. Because again, that's only a couple weeks after Money in the Bank. That's not all that hard to kind of fill that out. And that's just they did have a good match before, so I would definitely expect it to be a good match again. And I'm looking forward to it. I think they're both two of the brightest stars they have here in the women's division, so I think it'll be very good. Shack Attack says the championship will boost Judgment Day here if/when Ripley wins it. I do think the group would benefit from some titles, whatever that might be. Whether it's Damian Priest regaining the U.S. title, tag titles, or any number of things, this is definitely a solid possibility of having Ripley win the title here. Again, even if it's not Money in the Bank, maybe at SummerSlam, I think that would be good for everyone involved. And that's not to knock Bianca Belair at all. I think that she deserves to have a very good run with the title. And in some ways, maybe they got to this match too soon, because I think I kind of want to see them build up Ripley a little more. Because that way it's a win-win. Then you give Ripley, they give Belair a longer run, and you have Ripley get built up and Belair have a longer run. Like it works out like that. But and instead we're getting it now, and maybe that does make it a little more unpredictable here. DJ is going to go out on a limb and say he thinks at the end of SummerSlam, each member of Judgment Day is going to have a title or a briefcase for Money in the Bank. So that would mean Ripley probably winning the women's championship on Raw. Potentially Finn Balor or Damian Priest qualifying for Money in the Bank. That seems definitely possible, especially Damian Priest here. He's been pretty featured as a member of Judgment Day. I think that would make a lot of sense. But I like the idea. I think it'd be good for your group to have a real dominant stable like that. A lot of people have wanted to see them kind of get built up as this, counterpart to the Bloodline. How do you do that? You give them titles. You give them, or in this case, briefcases, something to make them feel a little more important. So I like that. I think it's definitely at least a possibility as always. And as a fan of Finn Balor, as a fan of Rhea Ripley, we've been seeing what Damian Priest can do as part of the group. They're crazier things. So here's hoping that at the very least outside of title that they have a good run here, even if the twist with Edge didn't make a whole lot of sense. Otherwise, you had a couple other matches to get into. Chad Gable picked up a very quick win, unfortunately only 3 minutes over Mustafa Ali. These two guys are great. I think they deserve a lot more time than that. This was, very short, not much to it. Otis helped Gable win here. Not much to it beyond that, but good one for Gable to get back on track. Mustafa Ali falling back further down the ladder here since his return, unfortunately. Any thoughts on that, John?
That's probably the worst part of it, is that Ali has continued his downward spiral since returning, essentially being number one contender for a singles championship to losing to a tag team specialist in a couple minutes, basically cleanly. So not much to say. Don't like how that turned out. Nor do I like how Rey Mysterio versus Vera Mahan, another match that was basically right after this, turned out. Vera Mahan, of course, continues to look like a beast, but come on, it's time to move past the Mysterios. Give him something more interesting, a better rivalry, more meaningful. Basically he's down the same path Omos has been down. Really hasn't done anything meaningful, just being pushed as like this big man that can defeat anybody in his path. This has outstayed its welcome.
It's weird because Rey Mysterio is a certified future Hall of Famer, first ballot. Former world champion. He's a big deal, and I guess it's something like Rey took some time off with some health issues or recovering from a procedure, so they had to kind of delay the feud a little bit. So they lost some of the luster there, where this could have been a really big deal.
He was a big deal. He isn't a big deal anymore, apparently.
John, come on, man! Like the name Rey Mysterio means something, okay?
Especially I don't make the rules.
If you're in Veer's position here, or someone like Veer, inherently beating Rey Mysterio is a big deal. Even just on paper, like you see the name Rey Mysterio, like even if he's not being booked like he's important now, that he does have that track record and that reputation. So I think like it's at the very least like I was a little, if not surprised, like I appreciate like okay, like that is a pretty big deal that it is Rey Mysterio, but I really I do agree he hasn't always been, especially lately, treated like he is a big deal. So it's a bit of a toss up there. But at the end of the day, I think beating Mysterio is a big deal, especially for someone in Veer's position here. A couple comments about almost Veer as being this potential kind of clash of, or one comment with almost versus Veer being a clash of the Titans. Steven says Veer versus Lashley could be a good test for him. Potentially, I don't know. We were talking about earlier if they want to have Lashley or return to the title picture potentially, but that's one option. DJ says no one can match up to Veer. They said that on commentary, but they do have one people, Shanky, the dancing guy on SmackDown, almost Otis or Lashley as well. All definite options there. Hopefully they do kind of wrap this thing up with the Mysterios here. I mean, Veer won fair and square. There's not much more to do with it beyond that. We were talking about Mustafa Ali picking up another loss here. Cedric Alexander probably an even shorter loss here. He lost very quickly to MVP thanks to a distraction from Omos, and then Omos just kind of dumped him out of the ring. And it felt like the point of the match wasn't even MVP winning. Omos like posed after the match and in the pre-match promo, MVP talked about Omos potentially winning Money in the Bank. So it felt like that was the whole point of it. So very, kind of an odd position for Cedric to be in. Definitely a shame for him. I mean him and Mustafa Ali, so very talented. Both guys that deserve much better. And again, Champa as well. A couple people, unfortunately, being pretty misutilized here on Raw, at least. But I did want to mention Montez Ford, first match of the show here, had a great match with, I believe it was Jimmy Uso here. Very good match. Jimmy Uso won. He blocked the frog splash and just pinned Ford after that. DJ pointing out it was a very good match. I enjoyed it. They are having a problem of like not really building anyone up for the Usos, where they can even have Montez beat him in a singles match. If they're going to do this, not to knock on Dawkins, but I would have rather had Dawkins. I would have rather had Dawkins lose this match here because I say all the time, Montez Ford, so much singles potential here, and to lose this match, not good like for him. Any thoughts on that, John? Because this was a pretty lengthy match to open the show here after the opening promo.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good match. It's hard to be interested in the tag division at this point with it kind of being out of the question that they're going to drop the titles anytime soon. It feels like at this point it's a package deal between the Bloodline and they're all going to kind of fall at the same time at some point down the line. However, the Street Profits are the ones probably the most respectable and most noteworthy to be challengers. So I mean, you gotta go with what you have, I guess. So although they did kind of tease the Dirty Dogs coming back
Last
last
week,
week,
nothing this
yeah.
week.
So yeah, maybe you could, like Steven suggests, not against Veer, not against Vera, but against the Usos if the time is right.
To bring it up, they had the showdown with Omos last week. No reference this week. Nothing at all. Don't know what's going on there. They would add more depth to the tag team division. I don't want to see them get fed to Veer. Apparently, I think Veer I think Omos has been facing Bobby Roode or Robert Roode at house shows. I think I heard that he was training him or at least working with him a little bit. But I'd rather see them kind of utilizing the tag division, at least add a little more depth on that side of things. Speaking of that, next shows maybe we'll see Finn Balor, Damian Priest versus the Usos. I think that'd be pretty cool to have the Judgment Day, as we were talking about earlier, kind of chase titles potentially as this, well, at least part of it, potential feud with the Bloodline a little bit. That might set up maybe a bigger feud down the road potentially, but I think that's at least a possibility here. Eddie says maybe the Usos are the brawling brutes at any combination of them potentially. I mean, being the unified champions, that they can face teams on both Raw and SmackDown, so could see that being an option as well. But yeah, having this match here with Montez Ford is a great match, but having Montez lose, not a great way to build up potential contenders here, unfortunately. So we'll wait and see what happens to that because it does feel like they're at least kind of rolling with that as the feud for now. But we're talking about the pose off here. I think we got that out of the way because otherwise, other than the pose off, I thought it was a pretty good show. John, how about you? All in all.
Not particularly. I thought it was all right, but I would still probably go a little below average. I would go with a 6.6 tonight. I thought they could have done a little better with just building some of the Money in the Bank feuds they're working on, other than the ladder match, which still only has one participant on the men's side. I'd like to see them at least have some kind of a meaningful feud on Raw. I mean, Theory's kind of the main guy right now because Cody's out. Plus, his feud with Rollins was over anyway. And of course, there's no main title because Roman has the both.
Yeah, I mean they are in that position now, especially they didn't have the Becky Lynch Dana Brooke match, but they didn't have like a big match in the women's division that could have been the main event here. So again, they had the Seth Rollins match, it could have been the main event. But otherwise, without Cody, without Roman being around, they are kind of lacking for that main event scene a little bit. And unfortunately, I guess tonight that meant we were getting a pose off in the main event, which is not a great look. I said it was pretty good. I mean, it was a good show. I meant like if someone says how's your day, say, oh, it was pretty good. It wasn't great. It wasn't like particularly good. It was pretty good. I thought it was all right. Like the ending tanked it for me, but like up to that point, I thought it was all right. I thought it was a pretty decent show. Seth and AJ was very good. I enjoyed that. Some comments here about the ratings. Nestor says 7.2. Steven says 6.5. Michael with an 8. So we got some range here. DJ with a 4.5, saying that even that's being generous. Apparently, I saw this going on as well. Shock Attacks that they were struggling with ticket sales as well here. I saw like some reports say that may have been like actually very, very low ticket sales here. I don't want to report about that potentially, but I saw they were at least struggling in that sense. DJ says numerically they only sold 3,300 in an arena that holds 13,000. If true, that is not great. That's pretty small fraction. Or with a 6.0 though for the show tonight. Nationals is a decent show, nothing to brag on. Do want to mention because we talked about some news. 2 dimes of NXT got released over the weekend, reportedly due to a policy issue. And Tony D'Angelo, part of the family there on NXT, also suffered an apparent injury at the house show on Saturday. I have heard that it's not that serious, and it may even be potentially storyline. I don't know much about that otherwise. That was the latest update. If we have any more information as it comes available, I will let you know. But of course, the big story, the elephant in the room, obviously today, not a good story by any means. Jeff Hardy being arrested for DUI. Just want to touch on that a little bit because it's an absolute shame. I don't want to belabor the point because it's a man's life. But to me, this is definitely a case where it's more than wrestling. The guy pretty clearly needs help, and I hope he gets it because it's a pretty apparent routine of behavior or it's not great stuff at this point. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but it's upsetting for fans of his, and it's disappointing just in general as a wrestling fan because he was on a good run in AEW, and this definitely derails it.
Yeah, I think he needs to be released from his contract and seek out help. I think it's just the right choice at this time to kind of just, basically force his hand. You got to do something. You can't just, hold his hand, baby him through it. I know people say, that's the last thing you need to do right now during a time like this is to get rid of somebody or fire them, but and I don't think people learn any other way. And I get the argument where what happened the last couple times. I really think that, and I do not want to fumble this up. Was it Jimmy or Jey Uso that had the problems?
I think it was Jimmy.
I think it was Jimmy too, but it was Jimmy now that I think about it. I feel like he's gotten the help that he needs in the past 2 years. He certainly feels like he's gotten a lot better. So, I mean, it certainly can help, but I feel like time and time again, people have tried to help Jeff and it just hasn't worked. So I think you need to kind of, separate all ties with him across both companies. Just kind of, put an end to it because this is going to have an effect on Matt too. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Remember MSK, the whole deal there, Wesley, nothing for him now. He really hasn't been relevant. When tag teams come in a package like that, especially when stories are being told that have to be abruptly stopped like that, it just kind of sucks. So I want to point out one thing that Nesha said was good news for today. Big E posted a short video of him throwing his neck brace away, which was a little surprising just weeks after he had mentioned about there being a little bit of a setback in the recovery. It appears that everything's good to go, but I still think people are jumping the gun here by saying, oh, we're one step closer or we're getting there. Like, this man's probably still nowhere close to returning to the ring. I mean, it took Edge 11 years. It took Daniel Bryan, what, 6 or 7 years. It takes quite a while. I don't see Big E returning to a ring anytime, even remotely soon. At least not 2022.
I mean, on opposite end of the spectrum, I think the Big E thing and the Jeff Hardy thing are very similar. It's like it's bigger than wrestling. Like Big E literally broke his neck. I think like many people would just be happy like if he can just recover and be healthy, happy and safe, and just thankfully he's not paralyzed or worse. That like if he recovers, obviously I'm a big fan of Big E. I want him to come back, as soon as possible. But like that scary of injury, I just want him to be healthy and whatever that means, and however long it takes. Like, and I don't know how long that is. I do think I did see that going around of people being like, oh, he's gonna come back soon. Like, no, like it's a pretty serious injury, so I think we should all be realistic. Like, it's gonna take some time for him to really recover. How long it is, I don't know. Same with Jeff Hardy. It's like bigger than wrestling. Like the wrestling isn't even a concern. It's like this guy just needs to kind of get help. I hope he does, and I hope the best for both guys. Like I want everyone to be healthy, happy, and safe. Like that's all. But yeah, the big thing was definitely welcome news, especially today. The Jeff Hardy thing was universally pretty upsetting, but the big thing was a very positive. The positive shine a light in that, even if it's not this big update like, oh, he's going to come back soon. It's like at least he's doing well on his road to recovery here, so that's a good thing. And here WrestleZone, that's what we do. We give you the good and the bad and the between, like whatever it may be. Do our best to give you guys all the wrestling news, whatever it is, at any end of the spectrum, because that's what we do. And then when we talk about it on this show, you and I, John, we talk about it on the SmackDown show as applicable, and the NXT show, whenever it's relevant, obviously. Otherwise, the two Diamond Dudes and Rampage, Marcus and Dominic, cover all things AEW. Otherwise, we've got a great stream of interviews constantly coming to you guys. We had a bunch for NWA always ready leading up to the show on Saturday this past week. Got a bunch and the can come up as well. I interviewed Tony Deppen of GCW today. That'll be going up before the GCW show this coming Saturday. That'll be up on the channel at some point this week as well. All that stuff and more. Bill produced and interviewed Ric Flair, the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. That's up on our archives as well. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support so very much. The world outside, very scary place. But we're coming together, John, to do one thing above always. And can you tell me what that is?
Joy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening.